Alrighty, everybody, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Navigating Career Change During a Pandemic. My name is Cydney Knotts, and I am currently a senior here at American University. I'm also a combined master's student, working towards a master's in public administration with a concentration in social policy. For my undergraduate degree, I'm working towards a undergraduate degree in CLEG, which is Communications, Law, Economics, and Government, and also working on a minor in Justice. So a big mouthful, but I'm doing a lot of things on campus that are really cool. And part of my time at AU has been helping students, foster their own career growth through meaningful opportunities with the Career Center. So I'm really excited to give this presentation on how to navigate career change in really difficult times by using, tips from previous industries to help you navigate an entirely new field. So without further ado, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started, and let's begin. So an introduction first. I'm Cydney. Again, like I just said, I am a second semester senior and also combined master's student majoring in CLEG. If you don't know what that is, it's right there on the screen: Communications, Law, Economics, and Government, and also a master's in Public Administration. And most currently, I work as a career advisor in the AU Career Center. I also wanted to highlight some of my diverse internship experience and also professional experience while at AU. So while I've been here as an undergraduate, I've been fortunate enough to participate in 6 different internships. 2 of them were in person and the rest were virtual because of COVID. But I started off my time in my freshman year at the US House of Representatives, working under Eleanor Holmes Norton, who is an amazing civil rights activist and also DC rep for Congress. I then went to, during my sophomore year, study to the Senate side to work for Elizabeth Warren on basically as a Senate communications intern, which is really exciting. And then following that experience, COVID hit, so a lot of the intern positions were virtual. So I then pivoted to tech to work as a public affairs intern at the Information Technology Industry Council, or ITI. From there, I worked in comms, another pivot. I worked with Berlin Rosen and Nike Communications on some of their really great, campaigns that they're working on to, get people excited about the new brands that they're representing and also the clients that they have, which is awesome. And then most recently this semester, I've basically rounded out my intern experience, first in government, then in tech, then in comms. And now I'm in entertainment working with Warner Media as a part of their, corporate social responsibility office, doing a lot of great work around multicultural marketing campaigns, also a lot of great work around partnership and sustainability. So just a lot of really cool experiences that I've had in my time at AU. And I felt that it was relevant to highlight these now so that you can see that career change is possible in a really, tough spot, navigating a pandemic. So let's move on. So first, before we get into the actual nitty-gritty of how to navigate this change, I wanted to give a little spiel about what peer advisors do at AU and how we can really help you grow your professional and personal skills as, young professionals in society. So some fast facts about the career PAs. We are 100% available to help you reach your goals anytime from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday on the 5th floor of Butler Pavilion, which is, if you don't know where that is, it's right above the bookstore on the 5th floor when you take that little elevator. And we're also 100% dedicated to making sure that career resources and, just career building in general isn't a scary hassle. We want to make sure that you feel confident to apply to jobs, to have, a resume that speaks to your, wonderful abilities as a candidate and all those great things. So when you come in and visit us at the Career Center, we are able to, really answer your most core and critical questions about what it means to advance your career, what it means to, be involved in additional professional development. So we're here to, really answer those tough questions, even about resumes, cover letters, things of that nature, whatever it is that's career focused. Us in the Career Center, whether it be me as a PA or, even the great career advisors who have made their entire lifestyle, about helping people reach their goals. We're all here to really help you advance your career. And I guess the last thing, all of our PAs, myself included, have navigated career change or some kind of career shifts, some different kind of thinking related to careers or professional development during this pandemic. So we are 100%, also experiencing the same thing that many of you in the audience and many of you who will watch this will experience, is that kind of uncertainty about where to go next, what career field will be best for you as you transition from one place to another. So we've all faced those similar kind of experiences. We all have a lot of like wisdom that we want to pass along to students about these experiences that we faced and how we navigated them. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing today, is sharing with you, how my own, experiences with career change, career development during this, really trying time of a pandemic, how we can make that a little bit easier for students who, don't have as much experience navigating those hardships. And so those are some of the fast facts about the PAs. If there are any other questions about what we do as PAs or the kind of services that we offer, feel free to drop them in the chat, or also I will have the Career Center email at the very end to send us questions. We're always here to help you. Feel free to drop in anytime. We're available and we want to make sure that you can succeed. So now jumping into the meat of the presentation, the first part, which is about personal branding strategies and getting specific on what makes you, you. And basically what that means is basically getting really focused and clear about what kind of things you can offer your personal brand so that employers are attracted to you and want to hire you for positions down the road. So to start with this section, I thought it would be most helpful to, for my own, I guess, way of figuring out who I was after making a career change, I want to start off with a personal I am statement. So an I am statement just really helps you get clear about who you are, what your values are, and then basically where you're going in the future so that other people can really get a good sense of who you are. So basically how an I am statement works is like this. So here's an example. So for myself, I am a corporate social responsibility professional. You can fill that gap in however you like. It depends on what you are, but that's who I am, who writes and designs social media campaigns. So the first part of the I am statement is basically getting a hard, who I am, like in one sentence, what could my position title be? What is the position title that I want to move into? Who am I moving forward? And then once you have that position title, like the corporate social responsibility, whether it be a journalist, whatever, a foreign service officer, whatever the case may be, then you get specific. What do these people do? What do they, what kind of tasks, skills does it take to do this kind of job? So for a corporate social responsibility professional, there's a lot of writing, there's a lot of designing that goes into that career. So basically for the second portion of the who, you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of what kind of skills go into that work. And then just maybe put two of the skills that go into the position that you most want to move into. And then when you get to the so that portion, so that portion is so that my organization's work in CSR space is amplified. That really just depends on what your main goal wants to be. That portion is what you want your organization to remember you for. So to give another example of how you could do a personal I am statement to get a clear, understanding of who you are professionally. Let's say you are I don't even know, let's say you're a journalist. So you could say, I am a journalist who writes and communicates big ideas or whatever kind of journalism you do, who writes and investigates stories or whatever that looks like for you, so that my organization being the publication that you work for or whatever else, so that my publication can, really, whether your publication solely talks about pop culture, fashion, entertainment, so that my, organization can amplify in that space, or whether you're talking about politics and things like that, you really want to make sure that this last part of your I am statement encompasses how your work impacts the group that you work for. So you want to make sure you have a clear, goal in mind of what kind of impact you want your work to have on other people who are, reviewing your work every day and who you work with. So basically an I am statement, again, just helps you get really clear and specific. It's like the first step that you take before you even transition careers, before you transition to things that, might interest you better than what you're in now. An I am statement just allows you to really just get a better sense of who you are professionally. Yeah. So that template is there to kind of get more clear about who you are. And then we can move into some other templates that might help. in just a bit. So this is a quick, just little question. How long will an average recruiter spend reading your resume? We all know that a resume is a huge part of, getting a lot of traction, getting a lot of exposure with organizations. So the average time, I don't know if you guys have guessed, but the average time a person will spend looking at your resume is actually only 6 seconds, which is insane, because it's like, what can they gather from looking at this tiny piece of paper in 6 seconds? People can glean a lot from your resume in 6 seconds. As somebody who in their part-time only professionally reviews resumes, from a student peer capacity, somebody whose full-time job where they're constantly looking at thousands of resumes every day, every week, you only have a little brief moment of impact to really catch the attention of a recruiter and to catch the attention of an employer who's looking at your resume and your cover letter. So you want to make sure with those I am statements, going back to that again, those I am statements help you get concrete about who you are. And once you're concrete about who you are, it translates into the material that you write on your resume. And when you're solid in who you are on your resume and everything seems really clear to the recruiter, it's all laid out, it's grammatically correct, it makes you a stronger candidate as opposed to someone who doesn't have an I am statement, who doesn't have a core, foundational understanding of who they are as a professional, who they are as a person, submitting a resume that's a little bit more disjointed, has some grammatical errors and things like that. So when you have that I am statement, I can't stress how important it is. You're really able to get a clear picture of who you are. And therefore, you're able to translate that a lot easier to employers, telling them who you are in interviews, on your resume, on your cover letter, because it all matches up. As you can always reference the I am statement in case you start deviating away from that to, really come back to, here's who I am, here's who I said I am moving forward. And this is why I'm not going to deviate away from that. And having a core, solid brand to embody it is so important, for really standing out amongst employers and really making a deeper impact. So that was that little spiel. Yeah, 6 seconds is only a short amount of time for resume review, but it is, it's the reality. So I guess moving into what it takes to actually craft a winning resume. Resumes are something that I find my specialty, and it's when people come in and they send me their resumes, it's something that I always feel the most empowered to help people with. So I really hope these tips, land as much as they can. So the first tip that I have is research. Definitely, if you're going to be applying to any kind of new position, new field, new job, you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the kind of work, the kind of task, the kind of skills that go into that new organization that you want to work for, that new career field, whatever it be, just that new environment. And since you don't have a good understanding of what necessarily goes on in that new environment, research is how you get that, better understanding of what it takes to do this new job. So for research, you want to definitely research templates for your resume that are appropriate for your industry. If you're in a hyper creative industry, you want to maybe have a more creative resume, maybe have some more color, maybe even a picture. But if you're in a professional industry, please, I would not advise you put a picture or make it super creative, especially in industries like government and foreign service and things like that, which are highly prevalent in DC. Because people, as much as you want to stand out, which you still can within these basic templates, they also are wanting to get very quickly to the point of your resume and also the work that you've done. As opposed to a more creative field, if your resume is creative, it speaks to your work of being able to be creative and at large, as opposed to a government resume where they want to see if, just for example, if you're working as a legislative analyst and you have a plain resume, they want to see that you worked around legislative analysis before, or in a government capacity, if that's something that's applicable. But they also want to be able to quickly look and have a very, simple resume, because the job itself is probably going to be a lot of reading, a lot of writing. It's not going to be as creative as a position that will require you to use Canva and use Photoshop and things like that. So make sure you really just, whatever new position you're applying for, research the templates that are basically appropriate for that industry. And if it's for a more creative field, have a more creative resume. And if it's for something that's more government or, even just academic and those kind of environments, it's always a safer bet to have a more plain resume that just, has your name at the top, always like your LinkedIn profile, if you can link it, your name and your address, and then your date of graduation for your schools if you're about to graduate. For my second tip, I would ditch the objective and leave with a profile or a summary, especially if you have a little bit more experience. This is specifically, I would feel like, for government, foreign service, international service, those kind of industry jobs, and even nonprofit. Because when you leave with a profile, which is basically just a short summary of your work as a professional, it gives that recruiter who is only looking for 6 seconds, if that's the only thing they read about you, you want to make sure your profile is strong. So you want to start off and be like, not hi, my name is, because it's a resume, but you could put, I don't know, how would be a good start to a profile? You could say, you're a distinguished scholar in whatever kind of, study you do. And you could also put, some of your skills. If you're bilingual, I would also put that and highlight that in your profile, because it's such a skill that people need, to be able to interact with people from, multiple language backgrounds. Like, people are really in need of bilingual, employees nowadays. So make sure to capitalize that. If you know a certain software skill like Java, HTML, or even, what's the other one? There are a lot of just different programming languages like Python. Make sure to put that on there. If you have like any hard skills, whether it be like communications, you can put those, you don't have to put just communications, but you could say, facilitates thoughtful dialogue on this kind of topic, or facilitates that thoughtful dialogue on, numerous topics. Whatever makes you stand out in that moment, lead with it in your profile, so that the rest of your resume, the recruiter knows that it's going to be reinforcing all the really great things that you put in your summary at the very top. And so I guess for the third important tip, start with a bullet point. Once you start getting, after the school section, after the summary section, where you like, those are pretty basic. You want to always, when you're underneath a job heading that you put on your resume, make sure that underneath is always bullet points. Never do a paragraph. Make sure that they're always really short and succinct. Make sure to, and this gets into the fourth point, to quantify your contributions with numbers. So that basically just looks like, if you sent 250 emails in your time with an organization, make sure you sent 250 plus emails on your resume, because one, your resume won't always be read right away by an actual person. Sometimes when you're submitting for jobs and positions, like, your resume will be read by an ATS tracking system. So it's an applicant tracking system that is only scanning your resume for specific words, for specific numbers. If you're, I guess I can give an example of this. If you're applying for a digital communications position, if you don't have the word communication specifically on your resume somewhere, the applicant tracking system will not send your resume to the recruiter for further consideration. So you want to make sure whatever job you're applying for, also to check the requirements of that position, and to also try to fit those requirements into your resume somewhere. And if that means having to change your resume up like every time you submit for an application, that's okay. You don't have to change it so much, but you definitely want to make sure that those keywords that their employers are looking for and that they put in the description are also in your resume. So it just makes you, more likely to get feedback or even a call for an interview from those employers. And specifically, more about the quantifying your contributions. Using numbers has been one of the best ways for me to get more exposure and more emails from employers asking to interview, because when they see that you've, whether you've written 100 tweets for an organization, or sent 100 emails, or even, helped 50 volunteers, or, serviced 8, mentored a group of 8 students, they want to know that your work at that organization during that time had an impact on someone else's life. And when you have those numbers, it might be hard, and I think about this specifically, it's so hard for me to think about people as numbers, but in this instance, it's so important for you to like quantify your work with numbers so that others can, feel that exact impact of your work. It might not show, I had a great working relationship with the team that I volunteered with, but if you say that I led a group of 50 plus volunteers, it does show a level of management that, leaving that off wouldn't have shown. So I hope that makes sense. And if not, feel free to put something in the chat if it doesn't, but that has been so helpful for me, is using those numbers to quantify, my contributions to the organization that I'm working for. And then the last tip that I have on here is to customize your resume. I think I've already touched on this briefly, but it's so important to like make sure that your resume is really customized for the position that you're applying for, and also your cover letter, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, really just having some of those keywords from the job description in your resume will make you, I would even be as like go as far to say 50% more likely to get a call back from an employer, just because you have directly the skills that they're asking for, because you looked and you researched the skills that are important to that industry, and also the skills that are directly important to them through, you know, the job description. And reading job descriptions is so important. Like, it will save your life time and time again. And I guess just to quickly touch on things to leave off of your resume and why, definitely leave off any unprofessional email addresses. Either use your school email address or, you know, your first name, last name, if it's available, email address, but nothing like, you know, just left the club 89 at Gmail or anything like that. Or even like, I don't even know, banana lover 52 at Gmail. Like, those kind of things are really unprofessional, and they don't really, you know, employers won't really take you seriously if they see that kind of thing on your resume. So even if you have to make a new email address just for applications, make sure it's just like your first and your last name or some initials or something really not, you know, jarring to look at for employers, if that makes sense. I would also say it's subjective for some people, because sometimes your hobbies and interests will be relevant to the employer, especially for more creative fields. But if you're applying for really government work, nonprofit work, business, anything like that, I would leave your hobbies and interests off unless they're directly relevant to, like, if you're applying to be like a business analyst, or you've worked a lot with econ, maybe if you have a club or an interest in econ outside of like school, maybe that would be okay to highlight if you've done like a really cool project with that. But if there really hasn't been any traction with those hobbies and interests, where you've had like leadership or management experience, then there's really no reason to highlight those on your resume. Also, references available upon request. Don't put that on your resume, because if they want to interview you, they're going to ask for references anyway, but that probably won't come until the very end when you're about to get made an offer. And photos, especially for women. I'm going to say this, please leave your photos off of your resumes, because it's a really dangerous world out here for anyone, but especially in this case for, you know, women and women identifying peoples. Like, there's a lot of targeting that can come from, you know, having your photo on your resume. And there's also just a lot of like rampant discrimination and, you know, sexism that can be out there in employee kind of like settings. So just leave your photo off of there. If there's an interview opportunity, they will see you when you get on that call. And yeah, there's no reason to really have a photo on your resume. And then moving on to identifying transferable skills, which is a really important part of, you know, this navigation of a new environment. So basically, identifying transferable skills is so important for, you know, it's almost as core as that, you know, starting I am statement, because when you know who you am, like, not when you know who you am, when you know who you are, it makes it a lot less easy for other people to tell you who you aren't. So the same thing with transferable skills. When you know what your skills are, when you know which skills can be easily transferred or adaptable to other industries, it's a lot harder for people to tell you, well, that doesn't really apply. When you know yourself, it does. So to be specific in this, the task itself, when you first start this, is to identify skills that you've used in the past, whether it be with an internship, an organization, or either just while you're volunteering, or even while you've been in school. Identify the key skills that you have. Make a list of like just 15 to 20 skills that you think you have. And when you see those skills, mark out, I would say, 5 to 10 that you use daily or that you've used a lot in your work. And then out of those 5 to 10 skills that you've marked, see how many are applicable or adaptable to a wide range of careers. And what I mean by that is, by adaptable, is if you are a writer, if you are a professor, I'm going to say if you're a professor, and if you're also a government analyst, what are both of these people going to be doing? They're going to be writing. They're going to be doing some kind of level of research. They're going to be doing some kind of level of speaking. And there will probably also be teamwork involved. So I'm thinking of those skills where it's more, you know, they can be easily carried from environment to environment. So planning, organization, writing, speaking, research. Those are all things that you can use in a variety of different fields. But things that are more niche and more specific, like, I don't know why this is coming up to me immediately, but like gardening and like, things like cleaning and like, like more, I guess, because they're not low skills at all, but like more general skills. You want to think about skills that can be, used in a variety of different settings and not just used within one place, if that makes sense. So from there, once you have those lists of skills like all written out, you're going to basically review the job descriptions for the new kind of field that you're looking to go into. Or even if you just don't have any jobs that are specifically interesting to you, just look for jobs within that field that could potentially, be on the same beat as what you're trying to transfer into, and then see what kind of skills and what kind of requirements they list underneath that job description, and see how they match up with your skills that you've already identified as having. And when there's some matchup, then you're kind of finding and sifting through which skills are more transferable into the new industry and which skills you might need to leave behind, not leave behind and not use entirely, but just not use those as much in this new industry. So yeah, it basically just helps you kind of get a better, firmer understanding of what skills are needed for this new job. And then what skills do I already have that could be also applicable to this new job? Because it just saves you a lot less hassle of, like one of the biggest things about transferring into a new industry that can be scary is feeling like you don't have the skills to succeed in this new industry. But I assure you, there are a lot of skills that people in society just in general have, like communication, like writing, like speaking, that are going to be useful in a lot of different job environments. So once you have those narrowed down, and even if you have to reflect on them a little bit further, that's okay. But once you have those skills narrowed down, it's really important that you let those transferable skills shine in interviews, and that you also speak about them and hype them up when you're talking with employers, because they're already going to see you as you're transferring from a new industry to an old one. From an old industry to a new one, that you're leaving behind like this old career. And so they're trying to see how that you can be a good fit for this industry. So when you have those transferable skills, those skills act as basically, a vessel for you to be able to get more traction with new employers, because it shows them that, hey, we don't have to teach this person as much as we would have to train somebody who's like completely doesn't know anything about this industry. But when you have those skills, you already come in with knowledge that is essentially helpful for the organization. And it just makes it a lot easier to assimilate into like that new position, that new role. So yeah, that would be my spiel on like transferable skills. It's really always important to do like a self audit and see what kind of skills you have and that you've been using in previous work experiences, and then also kind of continuously building up your work skills, taking courses and doing other things to build up more transferable skills, so it's an easier time getting into your new industry that you favor. So yeah, I hope that helped. But a quick word about cover letters. My friend Paroma, she has another PA. She's actually giving a great talk about cover letters. So I'm not going to go too deeply into this to not step on her toes, but you all should go and check out her presentation. It's coming up later this week. And it's solely about cover letters. And for this cover letter example, it's a good template and just a good word of advice in general when it comes to these, to one, make sure that your cover letter is succinct, and like that it makes sure that your cover letter isn't so overwhelming to a recruiter, because in the same way that a recruiter doesn't want to be overwhelmed by your resume and they only take 6 seconds to look at your resume, the cover letter, as important as it is, recruiters will only take a minimal amount of time to survey it. So you want to keep it small, short, sweet, to the point, but you also want to, make it sort of a call to action and to garner the employer's interest. So for this template specifically, this has been one that's worked for me time after time on getting, I guess, feedback from employers, job interviews, things like that. So feel free to screenshot. You want to start off by saying, "Dear," if you have the hiring manager's name, even better, make sure to address them by their name. Mr. or Mrs. whoever, and make sure, basically put their last name. Don't ever address them by their first name. And you can put I am, and then you put your I am statement. So you actually really need your I am statement. If you need to go back and look at that, this presentation will be, available later. So you put I am blank, you know who you are, and I'm eager to apply for, and you put the position title. And then basically from here, again, this is where I'm talking about transferable skills, making sure you have a firm basis for who you are as a person and as a professional. Summarize your skills, especially those transferable ones that are applicable to this new industry. Make sure to highlight those in your cover letter in this point. And then also, like it says here, make sure to use numbers describing your contributions and quantifying your contributions, because it's important to show that you've made an impact. And then you move on to I am eager to bring all my skills to the mission and the vision of blank, the organization name, which, looking at that as an opening, you have your I am statement, so your employer can glean from that, you know who you are, and you're confident as a candidate. 2, you know the position title. 3, you know your skills, and you also know which skills are seen as transferable and also applicable to multiple industries, which is very attractive to employers. And then 3, it's basically the magic formula. Whenever you have done all these great things, the I am statement, the position title, the summarizing the skills, make sure you quantify those skills, because that's the last thing that employers are looking for a really standout candidate, is that your skills, your contributions have made an impact on somebody else's life. And then you end it with, I know your time is valuable, because it is. And I'm sure this opportunity is attracting many highly qualified candidates. And then you just reiterate why you're the best fit for the role. And then to please reach out for a conversation or, possible interview, however you want to format that, so that you can help the blank organization, achieve its goals. And so with this template, it's been really just useful to practice short and concise writing, especially on cover letters, because it can be easy as college students to get really long-winded and to feel like you have to write pages and pages of words to explain to an employer why you're the best fit, but you really don't have to. Something like this shows the employer that you're concise, that you're, short, sweet, to the point, and it also garners interest from them to want to figure out more about you, to want to do a deeper and closer look of your resume, because you're giving them just enough, but you're also making, just a little bit of work for them, which is good for them to go and, have to investigate and research about you, since, you're keeping it pretty concise and clipped in the cover letter. But this one right here, this template has been really helpful for me. It's gotten me a lot of interest from employers. And so I'm really happy to share this with you all. And I hope that something along these lines, even if you make it a little bit longer, can be helpful. And, helping you think about what a cover letter looks like, what a winning cover letter looks like, and also, how to display your skills and your I am statement in your work. So next, we're going to networking, and we're getting down almost to the last of the presentation already. So networking, let's talk about this. So networking, one of the best sites for networking literally ever, and I'm sure all of you already know this, is LinkedIn. And no worries if you don't have a LinkedIn already. No worries if, LinkedIn is not even on your radar. That was me up until, I would say, last September. It wasn't something I was considering or even really engaging with that much. But LinkedIn is so, so important to helping you, build a professional network, and also even a personal network of just really cool and like-minded individuals who either you find their work engaging, you find their professionalism really cool, or even just people who are creative that you want to know more about by following them on that platform. But LinkedIn is really, and specifically having a completed LinkedIn profile, is really the most important first step for effective networking in 2022, especially effective job searching in 2022, because like I'm going to get into later, the hidden job market is huge. And also the hidden job market is largely, furthered by your connections that you have on LinkedIn. They can put you in touch with more people who have jobs that aren't even posted to most job sites yet. So LinkedIn is super helpful for just getting you in touch with the right people in your industry or into a new industry that you want to connect with and learn more about. So let's talk more about this. So with LinkedIn as this platform for networking, for meeting with new people, for sending out connections, and for showing your professional development, informational interviews on LinkedIn can be really helpful to, advancing your professional career. But here are just some brief tips I would give you about how to use these informational interviews with, and when I say informational interviews, I mean like, and this is how it starts. You find somebody on LinkedIn who is in your field that you want to transfer into. You reach out to them via their inbox, maybe just a nice message saying, hi, this is who I am. You can use your I am statement again. And you can just basically say, I would love to talk with you about your professional experience, about your career experience, something along those lines. Do you have do you have 15 minutes of time available to chat with me soon? Question mark. And then you just leave it at that. If they respond back to you, most people do because they love talking about themselves, and that's great. They respond back to you, that's even better because it helps you, get some face time with a new professional that you've never met before. And if they don't feel discouraged. There are a lot of people who are very, very busy on LinkedIn, especially if you're in a more competitive field. They're probably getting hundreds of messages from students also asking to like meet with them to talk about their experience, things like that. But in the rare times when they do say yes, not rare, but in the times when they do say yes, make sure you do accept those because it could be very much a transformational talk, and it can put you in touch with new opportunities that might not even be on, the LinkedIn job page. So some quick tips on how to prepare for interviews, especially informational interviews. It's not like a job interview. You're not going in thinking you're going to get a job. I'm going to be very clear with that. And then even one of the tips says, don't ask for a job, because this is most likely a random person that you're going to be meeting with who, you've never talked with before. So it's kind of presumptuous to go in thinking that you're going to be able to secure a job from that conversation. And it makes the conversation a little bit more transactional when that's the expectation that you go into it with. So I would honestly say make the call about the other person. Like I said, people love to talk about themselves. Go in with well-planned questions, maybe 3 to 4 thoughtful questions about their career. Basically, how did you get to this point in your career? What are some of your favorite parts of your job? What advice would you give to somebody starting out in this industry? What advice would you give to somebody moving into this industry from another one? Things like that. And there are a lot of different questions that you can come up with that stick away from asking about, specifically, do you guys have any positions available at your organization? Because you never want anybody to leave a meeting with you feeling like it was transactional. You always want to be personable, authentic, and making sure that you're keeping the conversation really on building a relationship with that person, so that then eventually one day when you guys are actually a good friendship or just professional relationship, mentorship, whatever, then you can feel comfortable enough to ask and probably even receive a really great response about asking about jobs that are open and available within their organization. And they'll probably be even more likely to refer you down the line because you don't ask for a job up front. So that's just my spiel on that. To quickly recap, come in with about 3 to 4 questions for your informational interviewer. It's really just a casual time. You don't have to be so nervous. It's not a job interview. You're just trying to figure out about this person so you can learn more about their industry and so that you can walk away feeling fulfilled as a young professional. And then to make the call about the other person, you're essentially there because you want to learn more about them and their field. As much as it's a time for you to share about yourself as well, really just ask them about their experiences, and there will be other times for you to share about things that are important to you. But in this first call, really just make it about them because it makes it a lot easier moving forward, to ask them about opportunities that they might have even posted to like LinkedIn or a public job board. So yeah, those are just some of my quick tips on informational interviews. They're not scary at all. So don't be afraid to reach out to people, especially random people on LinkedIn who are in your industry of choice. I connect with people who I'm not personally, engaged with all the time on LinkedIn because I want to get to know more about them. And then once you send that connection and or either do an informational interview, now you have somebody new within your professional network who you could ask for, more help down the line. It's like a really good, way of meeting people through this platform. So like I talked about a little bit before, the hidden job market, basically on LinkedIn, and on a lot of other platforms, there are jobs that are posted and you go through and you sift through. And then sometimes on LinkedIn, it even shows you how many people have applied. Don't ever be discouraged by how many people have applied when they show you. Continue to apply anyway. There have been jobs that have been upwards of 400 applications, and you can still receive a call back for those positions because they need you. They need you and what you bring specifically to the field. But the hidden job market specifically, it's estimated that 80% of jobs never actually get posted on job boards. They're solely posted through, I'm gonna say solely, but they're, I would say more than 92% posted on LinkedIn just by, the people that you're connected with, but they're not posted on the LinkedIn job boards. You have to be connected with these people to see the actual positions that they're sending out. And they'll normally just post a link. And then there'll probably be comments of people, referring people in the comments and things like that. But sometimes there are a lot of posts that people make once you're connected with them, looking for candidates for employment. And it's a lot easier to reach out to people that way, as opposed to posting a job where you're getting multiple, like thousands of applications. So when you've connected with people, like kind of in this hidden job market, who are posting positions that are on, regular job boards, be polite when you respond to them. If you find the job interesting, can comment below and say that you've applied or things like that, or that you want to talk to them more about the position. Because this hidden market really is really impactful and helpful, and it really gets students connected to jobs that they would have never found if they hadn't been networking via LinkedIn, and even via other social media sites. You can see sometimes on Twitter, even some of the people, I would say specifically for social media comms work, they'll post jobs on Twitter to basically avoid the traffic of posting to like Google or LinkedIn and things like that. So really your network is also your exposure to jobs. So make sure your network is strong and your exposure to jobs and job opportunities will also be strong. Yeah. So I cannot believe it. We're gonna have to wrap up already. This is so crazy. But here's some key takeaways from this presentation. I'm really glad that some of you stuck with me. But basically, the first key takeaway is to prioritize and make your I am statement. Summarize your professional self, or at least try, because I know some of you have a lot of experience, so it might be harder to do. Try to summarize your professional self, your professional experience in one single sentence. And if you can't do one sentence, maybe three, but nothing more than three. Like try to have it, pretty pared down who you are, what your job is, and what your impact is in that one single sentence. And so once you have that, it'll be really hard for you to ever really forget it. Because once you have the I am statement, you start thinking about that I am in every like move you make in life, especially professionally. You won't apply to jobs that don't serve that I am statement. So if you're saying you're a journalist and that's our I am statement, you wouldn't be applying to a job as a veterinarian or a doctor or anything like that. So once you have the I am statement, it makes you really clear about your professional goals and also your personal goals. So it's important to have. Customized resume. We talked about how important resumes are. We talked about how, making sure your resumes are fit for the job that you're applying for, whether it be a new industry or an old industry. You want to make sure that there are some keywords from that job description in your resume, so that specifically when your resume isn't being read by an actual person yet, it's being read by an applicant tracking system, that they can pick up on that you're a good fit for that job by scanning, if they're scanning, say you're trying to apply to be a chef and they don't see that you have anything that says food in your resume or cooking experience or chef like that, they're not going to pick you up for a job just because there are not keywords that match the position or even their organizational goals in your resume. So make sure you don't have to change your resume so much every time, but make sure it's customized to, roughly each job that you're applying for. LinkedIn profiles, having a robust profile is great. Make sure it's filled out to completion. Go and connect with people, connect with your friends, peers, professors, people that you worked with in professional capacities. Make sure to send them invites. It's all about, once you send that connection, once you reach out to people on LinkedIn, it builds your professional network. It helps it so much easier for you to get exposed to good opportunities, to thrive, jobs, whether it be just professional development in general and like fellowships, LinkedIn, and really just having like that kind of central, I guess, place to hold all of your professional achievements is really important to building up your network and making it more just making your network work for you. So you don't have to make this job search so hard and so arduous. I think we have a comment in the chat. Oh my God, there are a lot of comments in the chat. I'm sorry, I'm reading these right now. Oh my God, thank you so much. I love this. Okay, I'm reading your thing right now. Ooh, okay. Ooh, okay, cool. Ooh. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, Melissa, I know you're still here. I'm gonna quickly, because we're still recording this, I'm gonna quickly finish this up because we have to put it on our YouTube, and then me and you can have a chat after this. Is that okay? If you just want a thumbs up, that's cool. Okay, cool. Okay, so quickly finishing this up. We covered LinkedIn. Having a robust profile is better than nothing else. And the informational interviews, make sure to, when you're scheduling these interviews, be polite, be professional, use your I am statement to explain who you are as a professional. And then also basically give the person that you're interviewing with an opportunity to talk about themselves and tell their professional story. And basically informational interviews, if nothing else, are an opportunity for you to meet somebody in your cool field. And it's basically an opportunity for you to foster community with that person, to meet with them, to talk with them, to fellowship with them, and maybe even to become their mentee or them be a mentor for you. There are so many different outcomes that can come from, informational interviews. So really just be polite when you go into those settings and, make the most of it. Make sure you have good questions to ask, because it's all about what you bring to the table that defines how this interview is going to go. And then finally, the hidden job market. Basically, the key takeaway from this is having a strong network, especially on LinkedIn, is the key to unlocking, opportunities that never get posted, that often aren't, even made public. It's all about who you know. It's all about who you know. Once your network is solid, once your network of people, you don't even have to be best friends with them. You don't even have to be loosely, even close acquaintances or professionals, but people mostly out there on LinkedIn, they want to help. They want to, talk about themselves. They want to give people, advice. It's all about finding the right people who are within your new industry that can really, help you make an impact in that space. Like, seek those people out, seek out the people that you have a good, just gut feeling about, and connect with them. Because it normally, that good gut feeling is going to get you, going to places that you probably wouldn't have been going before if you had to have it. So yeah. And call to action. Basically, you're going to experience a lot of tough job markets. You're going to experience a lot of craziness, a lot of, just moments where you're down about, how your professional development is going. Everybody has been there. And I'm not trying to generalize. I'm not trying to minimize anybody else's unique traumas when it comes to career development, because there are some. But know that you're not in this alone. Know that there's so many jobs out there right now. It's just all about how you market yourself. It's all about how you show up in interviews, how you, remain authentic in these professional spaces. People want to see you succeed, but it's all on you, the way that your success pans out. Because ultimately, as a person, you are the one who determines your success. You are the person who, determines which networks you have access to in most cases. So when you're really putting on like a good step to go out and foster community with other professionals and, do the necessary work to edit your resume, your cover letter, things like that, you're going to have better outcomes than a person who isn't taking those proactive steps to, really make themselves ready for a world in which our career kind of, jobscape is changing. We're not going to be working in person as much anymore. We're going to have to learn how to foster community virtual, like even this setting. Like there are a lot of changes coming up, but it's all dependent on you, how you handle them, how you respond to them, and how you basically overcome the pressure. And you got this. There's nothing that you can't do. Thank you. I hope this was helpful. Yes, if you guys have any questions or just want to, ask us to do anything on LinkedIn or Instagram or those kind of things, our contact information is below. And we're really just excited to help you guys really professionally develop and grow into your best person. And so, yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to end this recording. Give me 1 second.